baby. When I tell you this story right here, y'all, this is not just gossip. This is not just tea. This is a spiritual warfare wrapped in a record contract. Do y'all hear me today? Because when the truth started leaking, when witnesses started whispering, when the timeline started connected, it painted a picture so dark, so evil, so diabolical that even I had to put my phone down and say, Jesus, please take the wheel, because this world is scary, y'all. Ooh, it's scary. Listen, we're about to talk about D'Angelo. Yes, we are about to talk about D'Angelo. We are about to talk about Angie Stone. We are about to talk about those allegations that both of them, I don't want to say it, were injected with something that should have never been in no human body, y'all. And when you hear what they found, your stomach would drop. Woo! Honey, I got to say everything I say in this video is allegedly, y'all. But I need y'all to comment. I need y'all to like this video. I need y'all to share this video. And I got a reaction video on this video. I want to react with y'all with this. But first, I got to say something, y'all. I got to say something, so let's begin. Whew. Today, we are stepping into the shadows. We are stepping behind the curtains. We are stepping in some energy that feels like the industry, the hospital, and the some high ups hands might been at work. Are you picking up what I'm putting down, y'all? Because none of this sits right with me. Not the timing, not the medical details, not the people involved, not the aftermath. I mean nothing, y'all. D'Angelo didn't just fall sick. Angie Stone didn't just pass suddenly. They are allegations that both of them were targeted and that a private investigator died trying to uncover it, y'all. Yup. Let's talk. The industry, y'all know it's been dark. Y'all know it's been dark. Let me warm y'all up slow before I snatch your wig from you, girl. The industry been dark. Ask DMX. Ask Eazy-E. Ask Michael Jackson. Oh, shit. See, the spirits are already here. Shit, that scared me. Hold on, maybe I need to pray. God damn it, I got the fan, and the fan almost hit me, okay? I honestly didn't do anything. I'm just doing it, and I could feel a presence with me as I'm talking, you guys. So this shit is real. I'm really doing this. And all of a sudden, while I'm doing it, I just felt like a present just tap my hand and make the fan fall. See, they don't like when I do it clearly, but I'm not afraid. I got Jesus on my side. I rebuke you, Satan, in the name of Jesus. But ask Prince, ask Michael Jackson, artists dying unexpectedly, artists suddenly sick, artists collapsing after they're speaking out and exposing it. They say Nicki Minaj is next, y'all. Whew, I didn't say it. You ain't hear from me. Okay, artists battling mysterious illness out of nowhere. And that's what's all around them. Contracts, money, ownership of masters, beef with executive, sudden accident, sudden diagnosis, sudden health complications with no history behind it. People in the comments been speaking out. Jesus, please come back so you can stop these devils. They say, make you wonder if you should even trust your darn doctor, honey. Okay? MK Ultra always in play. Industry is evil. They killing our people. Injected with cancer. Open y'all eyes, y'all. Do you hear the pattern out here? Everybody feels this is not normal. This is not random, y'all. This is not a coincidence, y'all. When too many stars fall the same way, somebody is holding the damn ladder. Angie Stone, let's talk about it. Didn't I tell y'all I was going to talk about Angie Stone this week? Didn't I tell y'all? I need y'all to start commenting, okay? If y'all want me to go live, press a 3. Let me tell y'all, people said she died from a car crash. Let's look at the details. Witnesses say she hadn't been drinking. The driver hasn't been driving fast. The guy that was driving the Mercedes. But then I hear that he had a lot of alcohol in him and he was yelling and he was going fast. You know, they kept on telling him to slow down, slow down. Some say her injuries did not match the car damage. I have not seen her. Didn't they say it was an open casket? So I don't know what type of witchcraft they did to have it an open casket, because they said she was pinned under the van. But people are saying they injected her. Well, she told us that she was injected. It's a video that's going around. I promise you guys. She confirmed that they tried to inject her with the poison. And she almost died from it, and it didn't kill her. They wanted to kill her instantly, and it wasn't working fast enough. So I don't know if they did it again, and it still wasn't working fast enough. They said, "Nah, we need to take this bitch with a car crash, okay?" But it is videos out there. Press 2 if you guys saw that video where Angie Stone said they did inject her with poisoning that almost killed her. Okay, that's just according to what she said. And she said that they will try to kill her for speaking out. Okay, and I got to say allegedly. Even though I know y'all seen it, I still want to say allegedly, okay? Some say her medical treatment after the accident is where things got weird. Rumors say she was given an injection for pain, and everything spiraled from there. Let me repeat. Everything spiraled after an injection. Look at cases like Joan Rivers. Went in normal, one routine procedure, dead. You think these doctors don't know exactly what they're doing? You think these hospitals ain't tied to donors and to partners and industry insurance policies? If a doctor can save your life, if a doctor can end your life, and people in their circle and her circle been saying something been off with her, something been off, but nobody had proof until D'Angelo started digging. They said D'Angelo start digging, investigating. See, this the part they didn't want you to know. D'Angelo did not accept Angie's death quietly. I guess. Did he show up at the funeral? I didn't see him at the funeral. Maybe he was there quiet. I don't know. But he didn't move on, y'all. He did not move on from Angie Stone. He didn't chalk it up to God. He hired, allegedly, private investigators. And according to the streets, according to the people online, according to the people who knew him, that investigators found something and then he died, y'all. Let me pause. D'Angelo loses Angie. He starts digging. His detective dies. Then he dies. Same type of sickness. Same suspicious medical timeline. Same whispers about injections. Cancer, guns, and industry. Oh, come on now. Come on now. Ask Eddie Griffin. Eddie Griffin even said that stuff, y'all. Let me tell y'all, baby, when I heard this, girl, I got chills. Can we go deeper? There is a long-standing theory that certain people, I'm talking about scientists, doctors, agents, government-linked labs, have the ability to induce cancer artificially. No wonder why we saw the monkeys. Remember that a couple of weeks ago or months ago, it was monkeys that was out here in these streets and they had all these diseases. Girl, that's a sign. But honey, woo, ooh, this stuff right here is not natural what they got. It's not genetics what they got. It's not God what they got. It is man-made diseases, infections, viruses. They are alleged. Ooh, I can't say it. They are saying, I don't know if they injecting, force, engineering. Honey, they call it cancer guns, okay? Micro injections, biological silencing, okay? It sounds crazy until you research it, until you listen to the CIA whistleblowers, until you read the declassified documents, until you hear about the experiments done on artists, activists, and outspoken black talent, y'all. And what did people say? D'Angelo and Angie were in what? With the same thing. I can't even say it, but they were, you know what I mean when I say they were, with the same thing. Yeah. I can't, the reason why I can't say it, because you already know what's going on. They are watching me. I don't know if you guys remember, but honey, this channel did that case on Angie before, and they did contact this channel trying to shut us down, trying to put a muzzle on our mouth, girl. Okay? So I know they watching me. I got to watch what I say. But y'all going to have to pick up the clues, because I cannot say everything so bluntly. You guys really going to have to pay attention and really wake up, okay? But let me tell you, their illnesses followed the same pattern. The rapid decline, the unexplained symptoms, the confusion from doctors, the sudden collapse, and then someone said, this is what happens when you step into their world, meaning the labels, the executive, the shadow entities who own these artists. Once you stop playing their game, once you start pulling away, once you start asking the real questions, once you start demanding for freedom, baby, they don't fire you. No, they do not. They finish you, okay? Let me tell y'all, let's talk about the investigator. The rumor is he was close. He was very, very close. He found out what hospital did what. He found out which nurse gave what. He connected what medications was used. He connected the doctor to a bigger entity. And right when he was about to deliver the report, he died suddenly. People said, coincidence? Honey, I don't believe in coincidence. Nobody does. Not anymore. Because the amount of people who die right when they uncover the truth is too damn high. Artists die, investigators die, lawyers disappear, whistleblowers get silenced, family members get scared. This is not normal. Now let's use our common sense, you guys. D'Angelo was coming back. He was making noise again. He was waking up. He was talking more. He was becoming spiritual. He was becoming aware. He was becoming too smart, too connected, too unmanageable. And Angie, baby Angie, was a force. She was emotional, spiritual, powerful, a survivor, a threat of people, a threat to people who depend on silence. Okay? So if both of them were getting close to the same truth, if both were questioning the same things, if both were stepping out of their assigned boxes, if it is very, 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 very possible that they were moved the same way. Do you hear what I'm saying? People said Angie was, then died. People said D'Angelo was, then died. Different situations, same endings, same symptoms, same timeline. And then multiple commentators said, this is what they did to Eazy-E. This is what they did to Michael Jackson. This is what they did to black artists who got too powerful. This is the price you pay when you step into the world. And baby, the worst part, nobody can prove it. Because the people who can prove it are where? Dead. That's the terrifying part. Let me put my church voice on real quick. When you see evil, get this bold, y'all. This violent, this consistent, this nonstop, it means we are in the last days. God is called evil. Good is called evil. Ooh, evil is called good. Talented people disappear. Truth tellers get silenced. Doctors get corrupted. Music becomes a weapon, and contracts become cages, and God sees it. God sees all of it. Because people crying out like, Jesus, please come back. Protect us from this evil people. This world is wicked. They are doing something to our black celebrities, Lord. I don't trust these doctors anymore. And I feel them. Because this don't feel natural, y'all. This don't feel like it's random either. This feels like it's manufactured death. Okay? Here's my question. Do you believe that this was a coincidence? Do you believe that both of them had a natural illness? Do you believe two people connected spiritually, emotionally, musically just happened to fall the same way, the same year, at almost the same time? Honey, with almost the same symptoms? Or do you believe that something dark was done to silence two powerful voices? Because baby, from what I've researched, from what I've seen, this ain't just a death story. This is a warning. And if what the detective found was real, then the truth doesn't just die with him. It was killed. Drop y'all comments in the chat, party crashers, because this one right here, it's the scariest one yet.
D'Angelo and Angie Stone, two luminous neo-soul spirits who defined an era, succumbed to the very same affliction, and what they uncovered just before their untimely passing has left the entire music industry breathless. Medical records vanished, test results were wiped clean, and everyone who touched the truth has fallen into absolute, unsettling silence. Something was administered to them, not a remedy, but a clear message from a system desperately unwilling to be exposed. Before you journey with me into the profound darkness behind the secret, please remember to like and subscribe, because what you are about to hear may forever change the way you perceive music. They were so much more than mere artists. D'Angelo and Angie Stone were hailed as the very soul of a generation, two profound individuals who dared to voice the essential truths the entire music establishment was desperate to suppress. Yet beneath the stage lights, behind the captivating music that enthralled millions of hearts, lay a profound, unseen conflict. One between freedom and control, between the spirit and the system, between the person and the powerful. Their story did not begin with a love song, but with a silent, sacred oath, a vow that no matter the cost, they would never, ever bow down. D'Angelo, a deeply gifted man from Richmond, Virginia, raised on the gospel of the church, flourished between two distinct worlds, one filled with resonant music and another with the profound silence that people of color so often endured. From his early years, he possessed a deeply soulful gaze and a way of touching the keys, as if he were desperately fighting to save his very own soul. He then stepped onto the world stage, bringing with him the sheer force of nature known as neo-soul, a genre that utterly confounded the most powerful figures in the industry. Angie Stone entered his life as a perfect, resonant reflection. A vocalist with a voice both exquisitely gentle and piercingly sharp, she once declared that music is not meant to pacify, but to awaken. They met not at their professional peak, but during the most uncertain days, when both were struggling fiercely not to be devoured by the monstrous, relentless entertainment machine. Those who witnessed their bond recounted that their connection was not an ordinary romance. They chose each other, like two dedicated warriors on the same essential front line. Rumors persist that Angie once remarked backstage at a 2001 performance, "If they can manipulate our music, they can manipulate our very bodies." At the time, no one grasped the full, unsettling meaning of those words until years later, when the events that befell both of them transformed that statement into a chilling, precise prophecy. Throughout the 2000s, D'Angelo and Angie Stone were shining beacons of uncompromising independence, refusing to be molded by any conventional template. They rejected countless multi-million-dollar contracts simply because, in their view, music stops being music when it only serves the charts. They spoke openly and with conviction about the stringent control exerted by powerful corporations and the insidious ways the industry attempted to pigeonhole the image of black artists to conform to market standards. A longtime industry producer once confided in a leaked interview, "They refused to follow the rules. They weren't afraid to speak the forbidden. And the system simply does not forgive that." D'Angelo's career was a majestic symbol of creative liberty, yet that very freedom made him a deep thorn in the side of the establishment. When Voodoo reached #1 on the Billboard charts, he vanished for a staggering 14 years. No one truly knows what transpired. Some say he suffered a profound breakdown. Others believe he was forced into profound retreat. Angie Stone, meanwhile, stood resiliently on stage, but the lines of profound exhaustion etched on her face grew deeper. They were no longer the public's perfect couple, but two isolated spirits within a machine driven by immense power and unforgiving capital. During those years, both spoke often about the agony in the music, a genuine, raw emotion so intense it would make listeners weep. But few realized that the pain they sang about was not merely artistic expression, it was terrifyingly real. An anonymous member of their crew once divulged that D'Angelo and Angie were subjected to peculiar medical evaluations that they never requested. This individual stated they were compelled to sign consent forms to participate in an artist health monitoring program, but no one knew which organization was truly behind it. From that moment, their lives began an irreversible shift. Performance schedules were drastically cut. Health checkups became eerily frequent, and whispers circulated that a private medical team was constantly shadowing them on tour. Fans initially assumed this was special care, but years later, when both began experiencing identical debilitating health issues, the whole picture became undeniably terrifying. The very music that once saved them had now become a cage. Both felt they were being watched, not a paranoid delusion, but a profound reality. Angie once confided in a close friend, "He says someone is observing us. I thought he was just stressed, but then I started feeling it too." Deeply unsettling rumors began to circulate within the neo-soul community. Some suggested they had uncovered a profound secret regarding a link between their management company and a clandestine biological research institute. A singer who once collaborated with D'Angelo recounted, "He came to me saying there was something in his test results he couldn't decipher. A strange symbol, not a conventional medical code. Everything became ambiguous and deeply suspicious. Both retreated into silence, avoiding appearances and interviews." Backstage, conversations were dominated by D'Angelo's bouts of rage, throwing papers, declaring that "something inside me is terribly wrong." Yet he continued to sing, to perform, desperately clinging to his musical soul, as if stopping meant ceasing to be himself. Angie Stone's reaction was different. She had always been strong, composed, but by 2022, everyone noticed a distinct change in her gaze. She became reserved, evading all questions about her health. During a brief radio interview, when asked about D'Angelo, she simply and softly replied, "He is still trying to understand what is truly happening to his body." One person in the studio recounted that after that segment, she sat silently in her car for over an hour without uttering a single word. From this point, a shared, pervasive fear emerged between the two people who had once sparked a musical revolution, the fear of those who have discovered too much. They were no longer fighting only with music, but with a profound, pervasive silence, an eerie, heavy quietude. They refused to sign any new contracts, declined all promotional work, and withdrew from all the public health projects they had previously championed. A record label employee once dramatically exclaimed, "They trust no one anymore. They are living as if they are fleeing from something invisible." But this was only the profound beginning. The story did not end there. No one knew what was truly administered to them or what had begun to silently course through the veins of the two individuals once revered as the soul of black music. The coincidence began as a tiny, almost imperceptible fissure in the immaculate wall they had constructed. A crack just wide enough for those who worked closely beside them to pause, exchange a look, and whisper, "Could it possibly be the same?" No one ever imagined that one day their health, the only thing they still believed was truly their own, would become something controlled, manipulated, and systematically taken away with a strange, chilling legitimacy. D'Angelo and Angie Stone, once standing at music's zenith, now faced an identical darkness, an invisible ailment no medical professional dared to explicitly name. When they both retreated from the stage, the press simply stated, "Due to health reasons." But behind that seemingly innocuous phrase was a chain of highly irregular events known only to those closest to them. A studio technician who worked with D'Angelo on the Black Messiah album recounted seeing D'Angelo so utterly exhausted he couldn't finish a single recording. He just sat there, staring at the piano, and told me, "I feel like something inside me doesn't belong to me anymore." Angie Stone experienced the same. Her shows began to be canceled abruptly. She spoke less, smiled less, and whenever asked about her health, she would offer a strained smile and reply, "Just routine checkups, nothing to worry about." But according to a close friend, Angie was seemingly pressured into participating in a mandatory artist medical screening program, a program advertised as for public health, yet something about it felt deeply, profoundly wrong. An anonymous medical staff member present at a checkup in Los Angeles recounted that both D'Angelo and Angie were administered a type of energy-boosting injection, which they had never explicitly consented to. The staff member, voice trembling, said, "I don't know what it was, but after they left the room, they seemed severely weakened, as if the energy had been utterly drained from their bodies." This unsettling tale spread rapidly through the community, only to be suppressed just as quickly. Anyone who dared to repeat it was warned to say nothing more if you value your career in the industry. The most terrifying aspect was that they did not fall ill simultaneously, but their symptoms developed along an identical trajectory. Initially, it was fatigue, then severe sleeplessness, followed by significant weight loss. And then, pancreatic issues began. Both received the same diagnosis from the same consulting physician who later became completely unreachable. Their medical records were deemed absolutely confidential. Everything was formally labeled as unspecified bodily reaction. To the casual observer, this sounded routine, but to those who understood, the phrase was a clear mechanism to conceal something far more complex. An old staff member of Angie's recounted her genuine terror after her final treatment. She told me, "I feel like something is fighting itself inside me." I asked if she thought she was infected, and she just shook her head, whispering, "No, I think I'm being tested." At the time, no one believed her. They assumed she was overworked, perhaps obsessed by the conspiracy theories D'Angelo often mentioned. But later, when both exhibited identical symptoms, people were utterly shaken. Their fears had been chillingly justified. D'Angelo, always a man of deep contemplation, began to view everything around him with profound suspicion. He canceled appointments, trusting no physician. A sound engineer recounted that D'Angelo frequently spoke about a foreign compound in his system. He said there was something in his blood that shouldn't be there, that he had seen a strange symbol on his test results, like an experimental code. I thought he was paranoid until Angie started saying the exact same thing. From then on, the rumors intensified that both had been injected with a sophisticated compound during their treatment, something designed to affect their cellular structure without leaving an obvious trace. Some believed it was merely a catastrophic coincidence, while others vehemently insisted they were victims of a covert medical initiative, cleverly disguised as artist patronage. Naturally, no concrete evidence was ever made public. But the unsettling truth was that after every treatment, they declined rapidly, and when questioned, every doctor offered the same explanation. Their bodies are reacting poorly. They require continued monitoring. This profound congruence of decline unsettled all who were close to them. A member of D'Angelo's band recalled their last rehearsal when he sang "Nothing Even Matters," the track he recorded with Lauryn Hill, but his voice was ragged, his breath broken. He looked at me and said, "I'm not sure how much longer I'll be able to stand on this stage." At that moment, no one dared to ask for more details. Everyone just fell silent because there was a palpable, immense weight that all felt but could not articulate. Angie Stone was different. She wasn't outwardly volatile or visibly panicked. She was terrified, but her fear was infused with profound resignation. She began to write more, fragmented notes in a small journal, all centered on nameless fatigue and pain that does not originate from the body. A close friend revealed that in an unpublished letter, Angie wrote, "I don't know what they have done, but I know I am no longer the same person." The letter was discovered after her passing, tucked away in her dressing table drawer, next to an old photograph of herself and a young D'Angelo. During those years, the public only saw rare, disturbing photographs of them, haggard faces, distant gazes. Both remained silent, never speaking out, never uttering a complaint. But that very silence was the most potent signal, because those who truly knew D'Angelo understood that when he fell silent, it meant he was preparing to articulate something far more monumental than music. The inner circle began asking questions, but no one dared to do so publicly, because the more they inquired, the more things disappeared. Medical records, contracts, studio data, everything vanished mysteriously. Those who had collaborated with them suddenly resigned or moved to other projects. No one maintained contact. No one dared to speak. Then strange, chilling messages began to arrive. A former tour manager for D'Angelo recounted receiving an email from an anonymous address containing only 3 stark words: "Stop asking questions." He immediately deleted it, but the fear remained. During this tumultuous period, D'Angelo and Angie remained in contact. They spoke infrequently, but their conversations were always long and intense. No one knows what they discussed, but once, Angie's friend overheard her on the phone. "If you are right, then we are no longer just artists, but test subjects." Her voice was trembling like someone guarding a secret no one must ever know. From that instant, everything changed. They lost faith in the industry's medical system, in the advice they were given, and even in the people who had once been their confidants. D'Angelo once told a friend that he felt he was being watched not by eyes, but by something inside. The friend thought he was speaking metaphorically, until Angie said the exact same thing. This terrifying synchronicity between the two people who had once been romantically involved led many to believe this was no mere coincidence. They were like two victims being drawn into a game they never consented to play. Every day they grew weaker, yet their eyes seemed to grow brighter, as if the more they were damaged, the more profound a truth they grasped. The narrative transcended mere rumor when the individuals who had actually touched the truth began to vanish, one by one. It all began with an independent investigative journalist, a name known to no one, referred to only by the pseudonym MJ. He claimed to have gained access to a copy of D'Angelo's medical records, and within them he discovered something that, in his own words, if made public, would cause the entire industry to completely collapse. According to his account, the records did not originate from a conventional hospital, but from a research facility linked to a foundation funding Black artists, a program advertised as promoting mental and physical health for performers. But when MJ meticulously examined the documents, he discovered an enzyme in D'Angelo's blood test results that did not exist in any conventional medical database. This enzyme was marked with the chilling code S39V, accompanied by a deeply unsettling note. Subject reacted faster than expected. MJ said he couldn't believe his eyes. An enzyme of that nature could not spontaneously generate in a human body, especially one without a specific genetic history. When he cross-referenced this with Angie Stone's file, which he allegedly received from a former nurse who worked for the program, he found that their blood parameters were almost identical to an absurd degree. The strange enzyme ratio, the rate of cellular degradation, the reaction to medication, all were precisely the same, as if the two bodies had been programmed according to a single template. An anonymous physician, interviewed with a heavily distorted voice over a secure line, stated bluntly, "They were part of a controlled test, and they didn't even know." When asked what controlled test meant, the person paused for a few tense seconds and simply stated, "Not medical, behavioral." The word behavioral made the entire scenario immeasurably more terrifying. If true, the objective was not merely to control the body, but to control emotion, conduct, perhaps even the very soul. After this information leaked, many sought to verify it. But just days after Angie Stone's passing, all the documentation MJ had collected vanished from the storage system. His account was completely scrubbed, his personal devices permanently locked. A friend of his recounted receiving MJ's final message. "They found me. Don't ask for the IASH files." He then completely disappeared from all platforms. No one has heard from MJ since. From that point, the arts community began to refer to the incident as the Soul Experiment, a name both bitterly ironic and deeply unsettling. They believed it was a covert experiment aimed at controlling the health and psychological state of influential artists, particularly those with strong, independent, and free-spirited ideologies like D'Angelo and Angie. Another persistent rumor suggested the program had existed for over a decade, funded by the shadowy organizations behind major record labels, with the objective of keeping rebellious souls from exceeding acceptable boundaries. A person who worked in the program's medical logistics department recounted that every time D'Angelo or Angie participated in testing, they were required to sign an absolute confidentiality agreement. One clause specifically stated that all collected biological data shall be the sole property of the research program. Property, not management. A single word that was sufficient to inform anyone that they had lost fundamental control over their own bodies. Angie Stone seemed to have profoundly sensed this. In her final months, she began writing more profusely, no longer lyrics, but fragmented notes, like the journal of someone desperately trying to preserve evidence. A close friend recounted that Angie once gave her a small USB drive saying, "If anything happens, give this to D'Angelo." But that friend never found the USB after the tragic accident. A veteran producer who worked with both of them in their final phase recounted that D'Angelo had been dramatically transformed. He no longer spoke about music, he spoke about enzymes, about blood data, about a body that had been reprogrammed. "I didn't fully grasp it. I only knew that he was absolutely convinced Angie had discovered something, and that was why she was gone." What truly sent shivers down everyone's spine was the highly coordinated way the data vanished. Not just the records of the two artists, but the medical data of dozens of other artists who had participated in the same program were also deleted. All affiliated hospitals provided the identical response. No information about such a patient exists. It was as if they had never existed within the system. A laboratory technician believed to be the source of the phrase, "It wasn't nature, it was engineered," later described this enzyme in an anonymous interview. He stated that it was designed to accelerate selective cellular decay depending on hormone levels and emotional state. If this were true, it was not merely an illness. It was a tool of control, a form of bioagent engineered to react to deep emotion. Musicologists, typically unconcerned with medical matters, began to cross-reference the timelines. They realized that D'Angelo and Angie's periods of rest perfectly coincided with the medical testing periods conducted by the funding foundation. Each time, they vanished from the public eye for a few months, only to return fragile and profoundly exhausted, as if their bodies required time to adapt to something profoundly unnatural. After Angie's passing, D'Angelo desperately tried to hunt for clues. A sound engineer who worked in his studio recounted that D'Angelo carried a stack of papers, test results, and recorded every phone call with doctors. He said if he vanished, at least someone would know the reason. The engineer's voice cracked. I thought he was joking, but now I deeply wish I had believed him. One of the most bizarre details was the note in D'Angelo's file. Subject 02, secondary receptor positive. And in Angie's file, Subject 01, initial response noted. 2 sequential codes, 2 identical results, and 2 entirely independent individuals. When questioned about this, the hospital insisted it was a data entry error. But who could possibly believe such a monstrous coincidence? The industry insiders began to whisper that they were 2 crucial components in a prolonged chain of testing, a biological response pairing model aimed at studying the emotional connection between influential artists and their audiences. If emotions could be controlled, then music could also be manipulated. And if music was controlled, the human soul would no longer be truly free. Since the news circulated, no one has dared to speak openly. Articles were taken down, blogs disappeared, and those who once spoke out chose silence. But within the community, everyone knows. The soul experiment is not merely a story of disease, it is a devastating narrative of control. Of a system that can reach into the very blood and bone, turning artists, who were born to be free, into test subjects for something they never consented to. No one could reconcile the fact that Angie Stone, who had stood on hundreds of stages, raising her voice as if defying the entire world, left so quietly. No scandal, no official statement, no warning. Just an accident summarized in a few brief news reports. Car lost control, no signs of external impact. On the surface, it seemed like a normal tragedy. But for those who knew Angie, for those who had heard her promise, I am about to speak the truth. The entire event suddenly became deeply, chillingly terrifying. That morning, Angie was en route to Alabama for a special interview with an independent radio station where she planned to share information about artist health and the things the public doesn't know. The host later recalled that she had called to confirm just hours before leaving home. Her voice possessed an unnerving quality, both calm and desperately urgent. This time, I will speak the truth. No more concealment. Then the call ended. That was the last time anyone heard her voice. When the car was found at the I-O side of the highway, emergency responders reported that it appeared to have lost control at low speed, far too low to cause such a severe impact. The more unsettling fact was that the dashcam had disappeared, and the vehicle's black box was so severely damaged it could not be recovered. The official investigation report was mysteriously sealed just days later, with no specific reason provided. A local police officer briefly disclosed to the press, a third party requested the records remain confidential. No one knew who that third party was. Fans began revisiting her final social media status update, posted just 3 days before the accident. There are things I can't carry alone anymore. You'll soon understand. The words were brief, but reading them after the event, they felt like a purposeful, final farewell. Those closest to her recounted that during her final weeks, Angie lived in a state of profound fear, mixed with an absolute determination. She believed she and D'Angelo were victims of a veiled medical experiment, and that someone was desperately trying to erase all trace. She had collected documents, recorded medical appointments, and stored them on multiple devices. A friend revealed that she even sent D'Angelo a short voice message. I found out what they injected us with, but I'm not sure how long I can hold on to it. That message has never been made public. After her death, her personal belongings also disappeared. Her phone, the USB drive she always carried, her laptop, none of them were on the list of recovered assets. Her family demanded an investigation, but the case was quickly suspended due to insufficient evidence of criminal activity. Those who tried to delve further were met with the familiar, chilling advice: let her rest in peace. D'Angelo, upon hearing the news, was utterly devastated. His closest friend recounted that he didn't weep. He simply sat in silence for hours, staring intensely at a small piece of paper in his hand, perhaps a note from Angie. He said nothing, only muttering a single sentence. She found something. They couldn't let her speak. From that point on, D'Angelo vanished from every stage, refused all interviews, and canceled every scheduled performance. No one knows his exact location. It is only known that for several months afterward, he lived in almost complete isolation, contacting only a few trusted friends. One of them recounted that he once said, "I will not die in vain like she did. I will find what they are hiding." In the community, that statement quickly achieved legendary status, but it was also from here that D'Angelo stepped into the most perilous phase of his life. He was no longer just an artist, he was the last person who knew the truth. An Atlanta journalist who intended to write about the incident recounted that when he contacted the police, he received a peculiar response. "She didn't die in a common accident, but you really shouldn't ask more questions." That vague yet menacing answer only served to strengthen the belief that much more was being concealed. Some say D'Angelo hired a private investigative team to recover Angie's belongings. A member of the team recounted that they only managed to find a small hard drive labeled S39V, the same code that had appeared in his own medical file. That hard drive later also disappeared, and no one knows who held it last. From this point, everything surrounding D'Angelo became profoundly strange. Every time he left his home, an unfamiliar car was always parked a few streets away. Delivery drivers reported that strangers came to collect his mail even before he could receive it. And most significantly, he began receiving constant blank calls. No voice, only heavy breathing. Angie's departure was not just a loss for music, it was a direct, devastating blow to faith. The faith that artists could be truly free and that the system would protect them. But in that quiet, tragic death, she left behind one thing that could not be erased: a profound warning. And though D'Angelo never spoke about it publicly, those who met him said his eyes were irreversibly changed. It was not merely the grief of loss, it was the look of a person carrying a secret too immense to live in peace. Since then, it is said that whenever listeners hear Angie's voice in No More Rain, somewhere in the depth of the melody, her whisper can be detected, like a message she never managed to send to the man she once called her parallel soul. A message that tragically never arrived. The news of D'Angelo's passing spread like a chilling knife thrust into the heart of the entire soul music world. It was reported that he died of pancreatic cancer, the devastating disease often viewed as a cruel twist of fate. But for those who had followed the harrowing story of him and Angie Stone, no one believed it was merely destiny. Too many unsettling coincidences, too many unanswered questions, and above all, too many truths he had solemnly promised to reveal but ran out of time to say. In the small house where he spent his final months, only a few select people were permitted entry. A close friend recounted that D'Angelo maintained his nightly habit of writing, even though his hands trembled, even though it took him hours just to type a single line. He recorded everything, not songs, but messages, fragmented, short notes. Amidst this stack of papers, the draft of an email sent to a trusted music journalist was found. "If I don't make it, tell them to check the files Angie left behind." The words were concise and cold, like a final testament. But the files, the digital documents he referred to, were never found. Not on his computer, not on any hard drive, not anywhere. They seem to have been completely erased from the world along with D'Angelo himself. His family recounted that, just days before his hospitalization, D'Angelo still spoke of Angie as if she had never left. He mentioned her in a voice that was softly trembling. She knew. She found the thing I have only just touched upon. Then he fell silent, staring intensely at a photograph of Angie placed on his piano, the only personal item he kept by his side throughout his treatment. Sometimes he would say to visitors, "I don't fear the disease. I only fear the truth being buried with us." His treating physician recounted that D'Angelo refused most standard protocols. He insisted on reading his own test results, asking for granular detail about medication ingredients, and was perpetually suspicious of every injection. Once, when a nurse entered, he asked, "Is this medicine or an experiment?" The question froze the air in the room. No one answered. He offered a slight smile, but his eyes were full of profound vigilance, the look of a man who fully understood that his body was no longer entirely his own. Since Angie's passing, he lived as a man carrying an unspoken will. Those close to him indicated that he was haunted by the conviction that both were victims of a disguised medical program. He called it by the stark, chilling name, the soul experiment. In his view, it was not only medical intervention, but a powerful mechanism of control, controlling the health, the emotions, and even the spiritual essence of influential artists. 1 week before his death, he allegedly sent a chain of emails, not to a single person, but to 3 different individuals. A journalist, an old friend at the record label, and a producer who had worked with him since the Voodoo era. All recipients later claimed they never received the message. The system indicated the email was sent, but there was no backup copy, no recipient address. It was as if the messages had vanished mid-journey, just like everything else connected to him and Angie. When news of his death was announced, the press reported simply, "Singer D'Angelo, neo-soul icon, passes away from pancreatic cancer at 51. No mention of Angie Stone, no mention of the years of profound silence, no mention of the deep suspicions he had tried to voice. A few independent news outlets attempted to write deeper, more probing pieces, but the posts were quickly removed just hours later. An editor for one of those papers revealed, "We received an urgent anonymous request to cease publication. No reason, no signature." For the dedicated fans, this was no longer coincidence. They believed he intentionally left a final clue, that his music was the repository of the truth. Some audio analysts even suggested that within the background score of the leaked demo Light Burns Late, there are extremely low-frequency passages resembling Morse code. They managed to decipher a faint, obscured phrase, "Check her files." Everything circled back to the starting point, Angie's files that he mentioned in his final email. The files no one has seen, but everyone believes exist. Some speculate they were deleted, others are convinced he hid them within audio software or cloud storage under a pseudonym. But to this day, no one has truly found them. And it seems no one is courageous enough to pursue the search further. It is said that sometimes music preserves what people dare not speak. For D'Angelo and Angie, perhaps that was the deeply buried truth, not just once, but twice. Once with Angie, and once with D'Angelo himself. Now, all that remains are fragmented melodies, lingering rumors, and one agonizing, unanswered question that no one can definitively resolve. Were they treated or targeted? Their music was not merely a collection of melodies, it was the soul, the profound confession of a generation that had been deeply wounded. D'Angelo and Angie Stone were not simply 2 talented artists. They were powerful symbols of immense courage, of individuals who dared to confront the truth, even knowing the price might be everything. They have departed, but their story remains, silent, painful, and profoundly unsettling. Every time we listen to Brown Sugar or No More Rain, somewhere in that bass rhythm and in those raw, raspy breaths, we can still sense a soul that has not yet found peace. They do not require pity. They demand to be heard. Because only when the truth is finally spoken can their music truly be set free. If you believe that the spirit cannot be silenced,